we also know that the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls or Bring Back Our Tidy Girls is still very much alive on not only our social media handles and pages, but also yours as well. And we have to say that we thank you for also complementing this advocacy to ensure that all the effort culminates in the girls being rescued and taken back to your families. Yeah, and your experiences in Takoradi and Sekondi and its environs came in handy.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, it was only Monday, wasn't it, that we had a conversation on our platform, and I said, look, we need to go there. This is the sort of story you can't tell from afar. So Tuesday, right after the show, I headed out there. We got there quite late in the day, about 4 o'clock, but it was still enough time for me to meet two of the families, the affected families. So Ruth Quayson's family and then Priscilla Crunch's family. And look, that's how we got a full measure of the seriousness of this situation. If you go into a house where a person has been taken, you notice the effect it has on the people she left behind, and it's palpable. Like you can see from the face of Ruth's mother that this woman is physically ill with worry and stress. She told me about how she shares a bed with Ruth, and sleeping has suddenly become an alien experience to her.
Yeah.
Because her daughter is not next to her, and the problem is she doesn't know where she is, whether she's dead or alive, and it's an agonizing feeling for any parent. The father of Priscilla Crunchy, in contrast, is exerting all of his energy, all of it, in appearing calm. And you can tell in a conversation with him, I noticed how at certain times when I asked him about whether he believed his daughter was still alive, it took superhuman strength for him to continue stringing his words together, in a normal tone of voice, because you could tell that he was facing his worst fear, his worst possible fear in that particular discussion. So I'll be honest, it's good I went, but not a lot about the experience was enjoyable. There wasn't pleasure, in this experience. There was learning, there was a lot of pain, there was a lot of realization that we have a lot wrong with the way we do things in this country.
Exactly.
The police, they have fields of expertise. They have certain expertise that we ought to be able to rely on in times like these. When a job needs to be done, we ought to be able to rely on the police's ability. But there are certain little things in which they fail, which end up making the problem 10 times worse than it already is. Something as simple as the family's complaint that not a single police officer has set foot in the homes of the taken since they were abducted. And that didn't make sense to me, Roland. I thought to myself, they disappeared from their homes. Is that not supposed to be part of the scenes that the police would investigate? Would they not come there and perhaps seek some evidence, something to point to, perhaps some plans that the girls were making to travel somewhere, or some communication they were having with somebody, something that could point them in the direction of where they went and where they may have been taken to? Why would you not go to their homes? Why would that not be part of the work you do? It didn't make any sense to the families, For them, they were even thinking about the cultural aspect of it. I mean, our children have disappeared. We reported it to you since August, and you haven't set foot in my house.
Yeah, it was a question I think Mavi and I posed to, is it the MCA for the area? And he looked at wit ends as to what really should be the position. And he said that, well, he dispatched his deputies or his emissaries and the security people. But we found that apparently that really hadn't happened, had it?
No, well, nobody has been there from local government or from the police.
At least before you left.
No. And you would have noticed something, that the families are now calling on the president to intervene. And you see how that points to another thing about the mindset of Ghanaians. They believe that the president's intervention will make a difference. That the police will work a certain way until the president intervenes, then they'll work a different way. That is what these families believe. Is that the truth? Is that the situation we have? Do we have a police force that work to different service levels depending on who is involved in the case?
Well, clearly, we've seen some scenarios in which, if it is theirs, they tend to apprehend the suspect. And Mama V, you want to...
You know, one of the sisters you spoke to, I think the very last one I think was Ruth's one of Ruth's sisters, the last one. She said a lot of things that I kind of reflected on. And when you said, is there anything that you want to say to the police? She said, everything that we have to say to the police, we have. Is the president that we want to speak to now. And she goes on to say, if it was a pastor's daughter, if it was and she kept using big man, if it was a big man's child that went missing, is this how we would be looking for them? It got me a little afraid because I'm not a big man. And most of us fall into that category of not being big in our society.
Yeah, big
and if this happened, God forbid, is this how we'll be going about it? But I also was thinking that perhaps I watched too many of the series, the detective and crime series, perhaps.
NSI and CSI.
So let's go back to that interaction with the police. Finally, they decided to meet the press, and there was an interaction. You were there. What, beyond what we saw on television, did it look like, you know, these are people who are actually
on top of their
exploring all the other angles, but they're just managing the information that they give to us? Because, of course, they're still pursuing the case, and we still have 3 girls at least that we haven't found. Did it look like that?
I'm going to speak plainly. There are some very professional people in the police force. There is no doubt in my mind that the regional commander wants these girls to be found. And he is bent on doing the best job he can to make this happen. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But it is also clear that some police officers have messed up big time. And the concern that I have is that there may be a desire to shield their shortcomings, you know, from the public's scrutiny. And that may be part of the problem. That's the reason why some of the things they say by way of explanation don't quite make sense. Because they perhaps don't want us to know the extent to which some police officers may have messed up in this investigation. There are some very obvious things that don't add up. So I learned from one of my sources that when the individual was picked up, this suspect, Samuel Udoterg Wills, a very strange name.
Yeah, name kept changing because we got Wilson at some point.
It's Wills, that's the official name on record, and I have a bit more information on him that I'll share with you in a minute. But when he was first picked up, he was not alone.
Oh.
He was with others. So the question remains, why did they pick up him alone
and leave the others?
And not the others? Even when a goat is stolen and the police track down a suspect to some thatched hut in some poor community, they will round up everybody he is with, and then perhaps by process of elimination release those they don't believe to have been involved in the stealing or the cooking or the eating of the goat. And that's a goat. These are people's daughters. And they went and picked up one person.
Do we know where they found him? Like, was he
I believe the first time they arrested him, they tracked him down to a place of residence that is known to be his place of residence.
And they picked only him?
Yes. He was not alone. They brought him in to the Takoradi Central Police station. This is where he escaped from, by the way. And the narration that we have of how he escaped is that he cut the bars with a hacksaw blade and slipped out.
Nobody had him?
No.
And there were 7 police officers, yes. I understand.
How did he get the hacksaw blade? Well, the police gave evidence in court because they've taken this matter to court, the escape to court. And they gave evidence in court of how he called a passerby, gave the passerby a phone number to call somebody called Kwesi for him.
This is the guy they had arrested.
Yes.
In their custody.
Indeed. Now you have to ask yourself, how do they know all this? Were they watching him while he was calling the passerby and giving him the phone number? How does the police know that he did this? Anyway, this is the evidence the police gave in court.
Maybe through investigations.
Investigation. So the guy admitted to them that I called a passerby, because at the time he was pleading not guilty. At the time they gave this evidence, the guy was pleading not guilty, that I did not escape from jail. That was his plea. So it is difficult to imagine that he had told the police how he escaped and was now pleading not guilty. That's hard to imagine. But the police gave this evidence that he gave the phone number to a passerby who called somebody called Kwesi. And it is this Kwesi who brought the hacksaw blade to the individual in the cell. How did that happen? We don't know. He then spent God knows how long cutting these bars and then slipped out. Now, off record, the police told me that there is a mark on his back where the bar, the rest of it where he had cut, the rest of it scratched him on his way out. But they will not allow me to see this individual to ascertain whether what they're telling me is true or not.
Oh, so this guy is still in police cells.
They found him. He's now in the prison.
He's been rearrested. So
yes, he's been rearrested. That's right.
right.
They will not allow me to see the prison cell from which he escaped, whether from the outside or from the inside. They will not allow me to see it.
But that's where the press conference, that's where the briefing was being held.
The briefing was at the regional police headquarters.
Okay.
He escaped from the Takrady Central Police Station.
All right.
So they will not allow me to see any of this evidence. They want me to simply accept their word for it that the guy escaped. And this is how he escaped. But you see, when they picked him up the second time, again, he was not alone. Okay, now, while he was in custody, before he escaped, he was not being cooperative at the beginning. So they adopted a strategy. They put one police officer in charge of him and left him alone in the cell. So this one police officer was the only one communicating with him. I don't know, maybe this is some strategy that they have employed in the past. And
so is this person like the main investigator on the case?
I don't know, but he was the one police officer who was communicating with this individual. I don't know whether that led to some information, but at the time he escaped, this was the arrangement in place. He was alone in the cell, not like the
let me take you back to Ruth, the sister again.
That's right.
The last lady said that whilst this guy escaped, he called them, asking for more money, saying that you're wasting your time dealing with the police because they can't help you.
Absolutely. So this is after he escaped, obviously. Now, after the escape, this, is the usual police practice, this individual and whoever was on duty at the desk or whatever, they were the ones who were tasked with finding the escapee. So they were given a period of time, bring him in this period of time, in this number of days. Now, that individual, through his investigation, found a phone number which apparently belonged to a girlfriend of this escaped suspect, and that girlfriend led them to his location in an uncompleted building, a very short distance from his known residence. Now, if you are a police officer and you have received this tip, you now know where he is. What do? You gather a team and go and arrest him, right? No. This one called the lady on duty, the other person who was there when he escaped, and said, I know where he is, let's go get him. The two of them alone. The lady just happened to call a friend, a constable, to join them. So there were 3 police officers, and they went and picked up him alone and brought him back.
The second time.
The second time. And
so it means that they knew where he was.
So meanwhile, they have 3 girls that were looking for. It looks like at some point the objective was missing.
You see, so they've now brought him alone back to the cell and are telling us they are looking for his accomplices.
But on 2 occasions, at least, there were people around him
who could be potential accomplices, and none of them was ever arrested or questioned. So you understand what I mean when I say that it looks like there are, and by the way, this information is coming to me from police officers. Okay, so there are police officers who are confused about the methods that their fellow police officers are employing. And that is contributing to the way the police are communicating with us about this case, because it seems to me that much as the commander and his team are very professional and really are committed to doing a good job, they are also preoccupied in perhaps keeping away from the public some shortcomings in the investigation so far.
When we were exploring, when we learned that this actually started from August, I was thinking this shouldn't just be limited to the region, the Western region. This should be a national exercise. We should have, and that's one of the things that we should ask the police. Do they have a unit that is responsible for kidnapping and hostage situations? You should have a specialized unit for these things, just like we have DOVSU. We should have people who are trained.
They have forensic.
But just before, we have Natalia Kwanzaa. She's been reporting for us in the Western region. She's also been on this beat. Ina, let's talk about something that you discovered. We were told there was a girl just before the briefing with the police, a girl who had come to report herself that she had been kidnapped. What's this whole story about? Hello, Ina?
Briefing. Hello, Mamadi.
Yes, we can hear you.
During the press briefing, there is this lady from another media house who came in, and she's
Hello, Ina? Okay, we keep losing Ina. The connection is not strong. We'll try and re-establish contact with Natalia Kwanzaa, who is our colleague in the Western region. She's also been reporting for us on this kidnapping situation in Takoradi. Okay, Kojo, I think you were in the middle of something?
Yes.
Going on to something else.
That's right. There was, in addition to this, by the way, and Ina will fill us in on this particular one, but there was another murmuring of another kidnap yesterday.
Yeah, but before we come to because that would be a related issue, as you were living during the transition, the families, at what point did they notice that there was a disconnect between what the police had picked up or were investigating and what they were communicating to them? Especially when we know that you've talked to somebody who said that they've not had a positive response from the police.
Well, for the Quayson family, and you see, throughout this, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of these families, okay? Your loved one is missing.
Yeah, all of us have.
And in this case, your child.
Yeah, that level of empathy is always
and the only people who have the legal mandate to find her for you is the police. Now, for them, the confusion began after the escape of the suspect, because they were all made aware when the suspect was picked up. Some of them came to the police station. They were seeking to identify whether this was somebody who they had seen around their loved ones. The father of Priscilla Crunchy brought a friend of Priscilla's who came and identified the man as somebody who had befriended them both and had promised them phones and all kinds of things if they continued to study hard and so forth. So they had all seen that this guy had been picked up and he was the prime suspect. So all they were waiting for was for him to give information about the whereabouts of their. And then they heard from the press that this individual had escaped. So to them, they were thinking, you arrested a suspect. You informed us. You brought us there. You kept us updated because, we are all worried. He escapes and you don't tell us. Why do we not know he has escaped? So they immediately became suspicious. They felt that perhaps there is a cover-up underway and that these police were active participants in his escape. So in fact, they went there with family members. One of the police officers described it as they came there with macho men, because they wanted answers. And that became a very, fraught exchange between them and the police. And they went home dissatisfied because they still didn't have an explanation of why they were not told. And I guess that is the point from which the distrust began.
We've got Natalia joining us again. Hopefully the connection is stronger. Ina, you are telling us about how perhaps another person was coming to report of her kidnapping.
Yes, Lavadi. So as I was saying, during the press conference, there is this other lady with a different media house who told the police commander that as she was coming in, she met this young lady at the entrance of the regional police headquarters who said she was kidnapped on Saturday and then brought back on Sunday. So she is coming to report the case. Then this makes us understand that probably it is true that there are lots of kidnap cases who have not come out to report. That is why the police have 3 official reports. Because, Mama, if you would remember, we spoke to a woman who said her daughter was kidnapped, but brought back the following day. Her daughter was kidnapped on the 17th of August. So if she had reported earlier, then we would have had the case running from 17th down to the 23rd, which is the last person. Yes. And even today, I understand there is an occultist kidnap case, but the person involved is a prominent person here in the metropolis and does not want his name out. I have tried since yesterday to get this person, but everything has proven, I still in getting this person's contact. When I ask, they tell me he's a prominent person, he doesn't want his name out because his wife is involved.
So this person was allegedly doing what?
This person, I understand his wife has been kidnapped.
Oh, this person's wife has been kidnapped?
Yes. And he doesn't want his identity out. He doesn't want his wife's identity out because he's a prominent person in the metropolis.
Since when did the wife go missing?
We heard of this case yesterday.
Okay. And are people making demands?
Yes, I understand from a media house here in Takwa, the Sky Media House, that he even sent an interview to them. He didn't come himself, he sent someone. So they don't even know this man involved. That is what I had when I called to find out, because they were also speaking about this morning.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Ina, stay with us because you're part of this conversation. It looks like there's something brewing in Takoradi.
Yeah, definitely. And it speaks volumes about the lack of the ability of authorities who are supposed to do monitoring. Because before anybody will come through into Ghana, it will be through the borders. Do we make sure that we give them the requisite papers for them to be able to wander around? Now, how do we track what they say they are coming to do? How long are they coming to stay for? And even do they renew their stay papers? And what kind of activities do they engage in? For example, we know that people coming into Ghana, they come and marry locals and try to get Ghanaian papers. How did we track from the time they made entry and then they went into a relationship, and did we regularize that stay for them to get the papers, etc.? The system just doesn't work. So people take advantage of it. But that also is not being communicated by these same authorities to the public.
Let me tell you
Everything
something
that's
else.
happening in Takoradi is so scary.
Let me tell you something else. Something which, if we were doing right, this thing could never have happened. This particular case of kidnapping, the 3 kidnappings could never have happened. If you are going into the United Kingdom or to the US or any other, again, the countries you love to use as examples, when you mention your name, they check whether you have a criminal record. And having a criminal record is usually basis for the denial of your visa. So even when you fill the form and they say, do you have a criminal record, and you tick no, they will check to see if that is true. You check against the database of criminals in Ghana to see whether that is true. And if it's true, they won't give you the visa. I mean, if it's not true, they won't give you the visa. This is a person who has been convicted in Nigeria of kidnapping. Samuel Udotek Wills. In fact, let me take this opportunity to give a bit of information about him. He has been convicted in Nigeria of kidnapping. He served that sentence, and he has now moved to Ghana and is kidnapping. Okay, so
how did we only go to know this after his after his escape?
That's right.
Okay.
But how did he make it into Ghana when he has a criminal record? What happens when somebody with a criminal record wants to enter our country? What checks do we make? When the person fills that immigration form, in fact, do they even fill forms before they travel to Ghana? Do you fill a form when you're going to Nigeria?
Well, because of the ECOWAS, there's free movements.
Yes, but
then it doesn't mean you shouldn't take data.
That free movement thing has to come with the exchange of data, information. When you mention your name at any border entry point, they should be able to type it in, and information about you should come up, including your criminal convictions.
I have no idea what happens.
Anyway, I can give you a bit of data about the suspect. His name is Samuel Udotuk or Udotek Wills. I'll spell Udotek so that you can choose how to pronounce it. It's Udoetuk, Udotek or Tuk. Samuel Udotek Wills, alias Mutanchi. That's his nickname. He was born on the 20th of May 1988. That makes him a 31-year-old. In Port Harcourt, Nigeria. He's from the Calabar tribe. His father's name is Udotek Wills. His mother is Adeha Wills. His address is number 22 Omunchi, Port Harcourt Road, Nigeria. He went to Grace International School in Port Harcourt from 1989 to 2004. The school actually belongs to his late grandmother, so it's a family business. He went to school there. He has 4 siblings, and he is the last born of these 4. This is all information that the Ghana police has been able to obtain from their Nigerian counterparts. So you see, when they are minded to do a job.
So we could have done this even the very first time when he was arrested.
And communicated and saying that, look out for his accomplices, this and that.
Yeah.
Nothing was done for
Let me ask Ina, because Ina is still with us. Ina, tell us about what people in Takoradi have been talking about. What's the conversation around town?
For now, a lot of people are afraid of their own lives. When you meet them, they tell you that they feel scared to even take taxis because apparently this kidnapping cases was done in taxis. They do not trust the taxi drivers around. One particular point in Crawford Junction, for instance, the people, this is where most of this kidnapping case took place in Crawford, Benin, Cancer I understand Udotek lives at Cancer. So as in Crawford Junction, that's where they mostly take taxis to their various communities. People living there tell me that they see taxi drivers pass, which they think are not familiar to them. They feel these taxi drivers should be interrogated. They feel these taxi drivers have some connection with this case. So if the police command can shoot them and then go and interrogate them, they believe, if not for even one, they can get two taxi drivers involved in this. And now people in secondary Takoradi are really scared. They're really scared to walk alone, to send their kids out. And Kojo last 2 days interacted with the people of Ateke. They said if students miss their school bus, they would rather go and stay home than to take a taxi, or even if it's a walking distance, walk alone to the school.
Wow. Is the police saying anything about this latest kidnapping, the known man or the very important man who doesn't want his identity out, his wife gone missing, allegedly? Is the police addressing that issue? Have they said anything?
No, Mama B. Yesterday, we asked whether they have a case of that sort reported. They said no. But this man tells media that he has reported to the Kwesimintim police station. Yesterday, for instance, Kojo Jansen was at the police headquarters, and then he asked, they called other police stations around. They said no, they don't have such a case. I met the police PRO yesterday evening, PSP Olivia Rapnedico, and I asked her the same question. She told me, Ina, we don't have such a case reported, so we don't know where this is coming from.
Okay, we have to leave it there. We still have no leads as to where the 3 girls are, do we? Just finally before you leave.
No, we don't have.
All right. But Kojo and Ina, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. So Kojo and Ina, is it possible that due to his modus operandi and the history he has, he could be giving fake information about or multiple identity information, either to the Nigerian authorities, and so we really don't know whether the sort of information we have is authentic.
Well, this information will probably be based on official records.
Okay.
Because he has a criminal record in Nigeria. So some of this information will come from those official records. This is not all the police has. This is perhaps what they have been willing to share with us so far. They will probably know a little bit more about him. And I mean, that's his home country. So it's much more difficult to pretend to be someone you are not when you are living in the community where you grew up. You know, so the information they have from Nigeria is likely to be more accurate than anything they would have picked up from him here in Ghana. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they are still forming a full picture of who he is. But so far, what they put out will be from official records in Nigeria.
Okay. This also, by no means, is anything we're saying relating to the fact that Nigerians and their other nationalities are dangerous in any way. Because we've had some interaction. I personally have had interactions with some Nigerians who are appalled at the behavior of some of their friends from the country. And I believe that we all need to be part of this crusade to make sure we identify some of these people in our communities. But also the authorities need to be more responsible to us, because we put them there for them to protect us. We all have children, and for you to think that in my neighborhood, I have sent my child out to get me toffee or a gum in a shop just on the lane, and my child doesn't come back in a neighborhood I think is peaceful. I think that it's dangerous.
Indeed.
It's dangerous.
Indeed. And the police are working to a possible theory of people trafficking.
Yeah.
It's one of the possible theories.
What are the implications of that?
If that is what has happened, then the chances of these girls still being in Ghana will be very slim to none.
And why did the police draw that conclusion?
Well,
because they've been on this since August, at least for the first case.
A number of things might be leading them in that direction. And you're right, it's been a long time since the first case was reported. So again, the question is being asked, have the police been a bit slow in reacting? I reported on Wednesday that the phone, the iPhone that the suspect had in his possession when he was arrested the second time, he tried to smash it. The police took it, and on that Wednesday, they sent it to Accra for some forensic work to be done on it. But if you bear in mind, that was Wednesday. When did they rearrest him? Over a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So why has it taken that long for the phone to make its way from Takrady to Accra? So there are certain things that appear to suggest that there have been some delays or some other processes we are not aware of may have occurred in the process of this investigation. But to answer the question about the trafficking, what might be leading them in that direction are a couple of things. One, JoyNews took this up as a campaign, Bring Back Our Tardy Girls. We put out posts on social media. And one of those posts, I think is Rolai's post, has already generated thousands of shares, 5,000, 6,000 shares of one post. The thing is viral. Everybody has seen these faces of these girls. Everybody has seen their images. Everybody knows the story. But not one tip has come through from any part of the country of a possible sighting or somebody remembering that I saw someone who looks like this or some people acting suspicious. Not one tip has come through that we know of. So the question is, are they still in the country? Are they still here? There's another aspect of this that points to possible child trafficking. That is the modus operandi that the individual, the suspect, Samuel Wills, uses, where he befriends the girls first. We know that with child trafficking rings, they tend to do that because, you see, they need to transport you across a border. And they need to transport you across a border in a way that will not be suspicious to anyone. So it's better if you cooperate with them and actually walk along with them across the border. So they will sell you a story, an adventure. Oh, we are going here, we are going there. We can even get some money from your family. Call them and tell them that you are, somebody has picked you up and they have to send money before you are released. And then they set off with them on this grand adventure. It's just that at some point along that journey, things will change drastically. And they will then find themselves in captivity doing things they may not wish to do. So that suggests that process of befriending them first, and the types of people he befriended, the characters of these girls, they are all described as reclusive, with a very small circle of friends. They don't go out much. The most adventurous among them was the 15-year-old, but even her adventurous lifestyle began in recent times after she met this individual.
Well, you want to add anything to the narration, particularly on this issue?
I think Kojo has said it all. He's basically describing these girls. Just like he's saying, the 15 years, the adventures of war, and with his father and brother had confirmed that this girl has been that quiet type. Her mother died when she was 8 years. So it has been the father raising her up all this while. They are Jehovah's Witness. And just recently, the father tells both Kojo and myself that he comes back home and people tell him, your daughter has been staying on phone for long. She makes a lot of calls. But when he is in the house, this girl seizes the communication. So in the evening, they have their water closets outside the room. So in the evening, this girl told them, oh, I want to go out, to visit the WC. That is where she goes and makes most of her phone calls. And then from what the police said, at one point in time, she had spoken with this Udutech guy 1 hour deep in the night. And all this, the family was not aware of. So they got to know after he was arrested, just like Kojo had said, the friend, a student from Pidai, whose mother sells along the street where she usually goes. And this is where Udutech comes to buy food, met these two girls, said, oh, I want you to study hard. I want you to be good girls and all that. At one point in time, the brother says, this girl who is called Chris Laquanche, who is called Abena in the house. So he said, they went to meet Udutech, who had promised Abena that, oh, I'll give you a phone. But all this information the family was not aware of until she was kidnapped and then the suspect was arrested. And for Priscilla Bentum and then Ruth Quaison. Priscilla Bentum, the father says, the church type. She usually goes to church. She goes for her choir practice and all that. So they thought on that fateful day she has gone to church, only to know later that Priscilla Bentum has been kidnapped. And with Quaison, who hardly knows any part of Sekendi Takrade, from the house to school, she's been taken in a car always, so she hardly knows any place, was also deceived into believing that there is a job opportunity. And from what we heard from the police, this man and then from the family, this man said he was going to give her an MTN job. And MTN is at the Central Business District. So this clearly confirms that Ruth Quaison does not really know Sekendi Takrade. Because if this guy told you about an MTN job, MTN office is in the Central Business District. The one which is back is on the Beach Road, just along the Beach Road community.
Yeah. And we've gotten the narration. It looks like a string of well-coordinated activities to create some familiarity with the victims. And ultimately, they look at those that they can easily manipulate.
Yes.
Ina, thank you very much. This is not the end of it. We're still following. So Ina will be reporting a lot more. She still remains in Sekendi Takrade. Kojo is back. And so we'll see how we can share the other angles. But if you take notes of the images that we've shared, and if you remember anything at all, please let the police know what you know. Yeah.
If you see something, say something.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Well, also on the show, we'll talk about child trafficking and how, well, the International Justice Mission, which is a Christian charity, is on with a mission to protect poor people as well as those that suffer from violence by rescuing them and bringing the criminals who perpetrate all these injustices to the law.